All right, Obi-Wan Kenobi episode 3. It's out. I've seen it, and I'm not gonna lie, I didn't like it as much as episode 1 or 2. I think this is the weakest out of the 3 that have come out so far. And from what I've been seeing online, that tends to be the opposite of what people think of this episode. Most people really like this episode, but I didn't really like it as much as it could have been, because I think it could have been done better than what it currently is, and what it is didn't satisfy me in the way that I was hoping it would. Now, let me explain a bit. I'm going to start off with a non-spoiler bit. As I just said, didn't really like the episode. I think it didn't have enough character development for the right characters, kept cutting away and developing a plot line that as of right now is completely uninteresting and doesn't have much depth to it. And then the time we got with the characters didn't really land as well as I thought it should have. And the climactic ending didn't satisfy me to the degree that it was hyped up to. It was just kind of like, this wasn't the big mid-season finale kind of climax that you set up, but I'm still willing to give the rest of the show a chance. So that's really all I have to say for this non-spoiler section. Everything else that I'm going to talk about is spoiler filled, so if you don't want to experience any spoilers, then I suggest you vacate the premises now and then come back at a later date. So here we go. I'm getting the spoilers now. I did not think the confrontation between Obi-Wan and Vader was nearly as tense as they thought it was. Like, him fighting Vader and getting tortured, the torturing part was fine. That, I think, was done really well. However, their dialogue exchange and their fight, it wasn't anything to write home about. And I know that this isn't their final battle for the entire show. I know this isn't supposed to be the big, massive climactic one where they're both going at each other. I get that, but this is supposed to be the one that's supposed to establish how much Obi-Wan has fallen. You're supposed to see how pathetic he is in comparison to what he used to be in Revenge of the Sith and what he's going to be by the end of the show, and show you how much Vader has grown in the dark side in all this time frame. We don't get that, though, because he's running most of the time in the fight, which is perfectly fine. I get that. He can run during the fight. It showcases how uneasy he is about actually fighting, but it just didn't work for me. It wasn't tense. They're running in the middle of this empty desert, and he's just like running back and forth, and they aren't really clashing, and Vader isn't saying anything that's making me care. Like, they're not having a dialogue exchange that is making me go like, okay, yeah, the fighting I don't really care about, but like what they're saying, this has me hooked. I'm invigorated in what's going on here. There wasn't any of that. He just kind of ran for a bit, blocked a couple of saber strikes in a very lackadaisical way. He already has his Ben Kenobi fighting stance, which I thought maybe that would be something he would come up with later on by the end of the series, but I guess not. And it just didn't land for me. Like, when he got tortured by him, that was fine. Vader picking him up and like burning his arm in the fire that he started is great. What I didn't like is that Vader let Obi-Wan escape. Like, he could have easily caught him there, because literally he sets a fire, he burns him in the fire, then he literally puts out the fire, and another fire is started later that separates him from Obi-Wan, and instead of using the Force to put out the fire, he just lets him go away. I don't know why. Maybe the fire was too strong at that point, so him force pushing it wouldn't have put it out. I don't have an explanation for why he just let them take Obi-Wan away, but it happened. So leading up to their confrontation was terrifying. Vader just walking through town, murdering a bunch of innocent people until Obi-Wan's willing to show himself. That's fine. I love that. That was great. But like, their actual confrontation, especially since this is the mid-season finale of the show, I know that the show is only 6 episodes, is running straight through, but even still, this is the midpoint of a show. This is usually when there's like a huge turning point that makes everything crazy and like it builds up tension for the latter half of the show. This did not hit that marker for me in the slightest bit. I wish it was better. I wish they either had more dialogue with each other that felt more encapsulating, or, the fight itself was better. Like, show Ben really struggling in this fight. Because he kept running, you don't really get to see how terrible he is at holding his own. He just gets like hit a couple times, then he runs. And then He's like scared, which Ewan McGregor is doing a fantastic job at this, and so is James Earl Jones. Like, they're doing great jobs in this and portraying these characters, but Ewan McGregor's acting isn't the problem. It was the choreography of the scene itself. The scene needed to be choreographed better so there would be more tension in what's going on. And it's just, it wasn't there. But enough of Vader and Obi-Wan's confrontation that happened in like the last 10 minutes of the show. The rest of the episode was just like, it had elements in it that I liked, but it just didn't work out properly. The lesson Obi-Wan is supposed to learn in this episode is that he needs to trust people again, which you shouldn't learn that lesson because he was kind of right the entire episode. From the beginning of the episode, they arrive on the planet and they meet the drop-off spot, and the person, we learn later on in the episode, was late. So when they got there, Obi-Wan didn't see anybody, and he's like, great, we've been set up, let's move on. So they start leaving, and they run into a person in a vehicle that's vehicle transport, and Leia's like, hey, can you give us a ride? We find out this guy is, this mole rat looking dude is an Empire advocate, and they're in the truck, they're being taken down, and he's just nervous, he doesn't want to, reveal too much, and then they get to a checkpoint, and the dude gets out of the car, and he's like, hey, yo, by the way, I picked up these 2 strays, I think you might want to run their IDs, and it's just like, okay, so they couldn't trust him. Leia convinced Obi-Wan to trust this guy, and he was completely untrustworthy. So, okay, fine. Then they get saved by the person that was originally supposed to meet them, who was late, and she tries to help them. And when they get to the village, as she's helping them, and they're trying to escape, that's when Vader shows up. So Obi-Wan goes, I will distract Vader. You take Leia to safety. She doesn't take Leia to safety, and she gets caught by the third sister. She does go and save Obi-Wan, but it's like, Obi-Wan's life was never what he cared about. He was like, I don't care about my life. I want Leia to be safely taken care of. And she failed at that. Every time he trusted someone in this episode, they failed at helping him. So it's just like, I don't get how he's supposed to have learned a lesson of like, you know what, Leia's right. I do need to trust people now, because it didn't pay off for him in the slightest bit. So I don't know exactly what he was supposed to gain from this, but it just didn't work for me. It didn't land for me. One thing I did really like, though, was Obi-Wan talking to Leia about his family and her family. I thought that was a really nice scene. Obi-Wan opening up about how he has vague memories of when his family was taken away from him as he was being taken to the Jedi Temple to become a true Jedi Master. I really did enjoy that a lot. That was a very heartfelt scene. Ewan McGregor did a great job in it. Like I said, he is killing it in this show. It's just the show is not meeting the quality of acting he's providing. At least that's how I feel about it. And what's really harming this show the most is definitely the disjointed nature of the Inquisitors. They are not a unified front, which is making this show really bad. There's a lot of dissension in their ranks, so they're not working together to stop Obi-Wan, which I know I've compared it to Jedi Fallen Order in the last video, but I feel like Jedi Fallen Order really got this right with the Inquisitors. The Inquisitors were a unified front in that game, hunting you down relentlessly, and as the game went on, you learned bits and pieces, because in that game, Cal has a friend that's working with him throughout the whole story. Her former apprentice is the leader of the Inquisitors that are hunting Cal, and that adds an element to the plot, because now Cal doesn't just want to, kill this person or escape them. He kind of wants to bring them back to the light side because he knows their master. He knows that she's not a bad person, and that works. That added an element of intrigue to the story. But here, it's like, okay, we saw Reva survive Order 66. She has a fixation on Obi-Wan. She wants to be the Grand Inquisitor. At least that's what we're told at the moment. But it's just like, why? We don't know why she wants any of this. And then the other Inquisitor that she's, I think, fifth brother is what I heard his name is. He wants to be the Grand Inquisitor. So there's friction between the two of them. And it's just like, I don't care about these people. There's nothing that's connecting me to them. The actors are fine. There's nothing wrong with them acting. It's just the character development for them isn't there. There's no development whatsoever. So whenever they're arguing with each other and one-upping each other and underhanding tactics to become Grand Inquisitor in their own means, I don't care. I don't know these people. You're not giving me information that makes me know them. You're just showing me them trying to become Grand Inquisitor and undermining each other, which is allowing Obi-Wan to escape. If you were a unified front, going after him, that would be tense. That would be invigorating. I would care about what's going on, but I don't. You guys just constantly keep one-upping each other, trying to be like, no, I'm going to be the one to catch Obi-Wan. No, I'm the one who's going to catch Obi-Wan. It's like that scene from SpongeBob where they're arguing about which one's going to be named Dirty Dan. Like, man, I wasn't a fan of this episode. I really wish I was, because I knew Vader was going to be in this episode. I'm like, all right, it's episode 3. Vader's going to show up. It's going to be the mid-season finale. There's going to be some crazy stuff that happens. And this episode just did not hit the way it should have. And I know that these Star Wars shows can hit, but it seems like for whatever reason, they're just not trying as hard with the scripts when it has nothing to do with The Mandalorian. Because The Book of Boba Fett, hated that show. It was super boring. Mandalorian, fantastic. Both seasons, love them. The Mandalorian episodes that are like at the end of the Book of Boba Fett, fantastic. Love them. This, it's not hitting. Episodes 1 and 2, solid. I enjoyed them, gave me hope for the show. This episode, which was supposed to be like the big climactic midpoint, just did not land in any way, shape, or form for me. I was just like, okay, it happened. I'm still invested. I'm going to keep watching, but this didn't really sell me on what's going on in the show. Like, I'm not like, ooh, yo, that was crazy. I can't wait for what's going to happen next. Let's go. I'm super hyped. That didn't happen. Didn't happen at all. So I don't know what's going on. I don't know why this episode wasn't as impactful as it should have been, but I'm really hoping they recover with these next 3 episodes and that each one is a banger, because I do want this show to be really good. Because it's Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's awesome. Everyone loves him. You know, we deserve as fans a great show, and the people involved in the show deserve to have a great show be made, especially Ewan McGregor. Like, everyone's loved him as Obi-Wan since he was in the prequels, and now that he's finally got to come back and reprise his role as the character and a fresh new take on the character, he deserves to be in a phenomenal show. So I'm really hoping these last 3 episodes really raise the bar in what's going on within these first 3. And that's really all I have to say about episode 3 of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Let me know what you thought about it down below. And remember, folks, I'm the innocent villain, and you're innocent to proven villainous. I'll catch you in the next one. Tonight.